What's happening? What's happening? What's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another live hangout vid. I'm just gonna go ahead and cover a few things here. I probably won't be on that long, but let me go ahead and try to save some of this battery life on my laptop. Gotta make sure I do that. Make sure the sound levels are good to go. Let me go right over here and check that out. Let me see if anybody can hear me just well. It looks like the sound levels are good. Uh, well, don't see anybody in the live chat yet, but it's okay. It's early. It's about less than a minute into the hangout, so let's go ahead and get to it real quickly. Let's get to it real quickly. Oh, there's 4 or 5 people watching so far. That's good. So I'll make this real quick, y'all. Since I'm on break right here at work. So I know a lot of people were concerned, not concerned, were just curious about who Earl Spence next opponent could be. Uh, yeah, what's up, St. Cruiser? I know y'all coming. um, some people have been considering, or actually been concerned, or not concerned, has been curious about who's Earl Spence's next opponent is going to be, because that we all know that it's unlikely that he'll fight Keith Thurman or Sean Porter, or the Danny Garcias of the world at this point. Obviously, because Danny Garcia is ranked by the WBC and not by the IBF, and Terrence Crawford is fighting for the WBO title against Jeff Horn. So none of those big marquee fights are not happening right now. So with that said, the only thing Errol Spence can do, since now he is the IBF champion, welterweight champion, he can only fight those who's ranked in the IBF. Now, the IBF has came out. They issued a ruling. They will order Errol Spence to make his next title defense against Carlos Ocampo. Okay. Now, people who don't know who Carlos Ocampo is, he is a prospect. He's 22 years old. He's undefeated. Um, what's going on, Brown Gone? What's happening for Riverside? All right. Oh, you from the Riverside? Okay, that's cool, man. You about 1 hour away from me, but it's all good. What's up, Ross Clock? My own boxing community. You always got to rep that MOBC, man. It's all good. But anyways, Carlos Ocampo has been named the next opponent for Earl Spence Jr. It's been ordered by the IBF. I'll give you the full breakdown of this. Well, actually, the full statement that was put out by the IBF on this situation. So Ocampo is 22 and 0. He's 22 years old. He's got 13 KOs. He's fought regionally throughout his career so far in Mexico. Um, his most notable wins are against Jorge Paez Jr. and Charlie Navarro. Now, Charlie Navarro once fought for a world title, and Jorge Paez Jr. We all know he's the son of Jorge Paez, whatnot. So, I mean, you can say those are good step up wins for the guy who's a prospect. You won't say they're great wins, but they're good step up wins for him. But those fights have been regionally in Mexico. So he's definitely this will be his first fight outside of that region. Once this fight between him and Errol Spence gets finalized. All right, but there are a few things here that to make work note. The IBF has ordered the team that is representing Ocampo to come to an agreement and reach out to Spence's team to come out, to reach an agreement. They have until February 22nd to do so. So that is about 30 days away. If neither side cannot come to an agreement, the IBF will then order a purse bid. Now, of course, we all know if that happens, we we obviously know who's going to win that purse bid. So obviously, Ocampo's team is going to have to come to an agreement, because there's no way in hell that I just don't see how they can win a purse bid. But who knows? Who knows? But they have 22 days, 30 days, 29 or 30 days to do so, and which is February 22nd. And from there, we'll see. We'll see how things will further develop at that point. Um, I saw some of this guy's fights. He's a decent fighter, but obviously if you look at it from skill for skill, I mean, Errol Spence is going to overmatch this guy. It's very evident. I know this is not a foregone conclusion yet, but let's just be honest. Earl Spence Jr. versus Carlos Ocampo. If you look at Carlos Ocampo's fights, just take a look at a few fights. They're online. They're on YouTube. Take a look at them. I just don't. I just don't see him beating Errol Spence. There's no way, no way. But again, there's just I'm not going to make this a foregone conclusion, but from the looks of it, yeah, Errol Spence should have no problem getting this guy out of here once this fight gets made. So, um, yeah, again, we'll see how how things further progress down the line on this. Now, speaking of the IBF, I did get a chance to look at the IBF rankings, and I saw some interesting things here. Um, First, the reason why I have to say the reason why Carlos Ocampo is the mandatory challenger at this point because the IBF does not have a number one or number two rated challenger. So the next guy listed is Ocampo. He's rated number three, which is a strange way of ranking things. I mean, if you don't have a number one, number two, just fill in the slot with the guys like Ocampo, for example. And Konstantin Ponomarov. This is the guy who actually ducked out of the eliminated bout against Errol Spence, who ducked out of a fight against him. So that fight will never happen at that point, since Ponomarov don't want that fight. He already beat Peterson, who was rated number five by the IBF. So now that Peterson has lost that fight, he's going to move down to the rankings. Bradley Skeet is ranked in there as well. I mean, Bradley Skeet is a decent fighter. Very big welterweight, by the way. He is a very huge welterweight. But I just don't see the skill set of him being Errol Spence. No, 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 no. Devin Alexander. Yes, Devin Alexander. Devin Alexander does have a fight coming up against, I think, Victor Ortiz, if I'm not mistaken. I think that fight is signed and delivered. Let me look that up just to be on the safe side. Yeah, so he is scheduled to fight Victor Ortiz next month on the 17th in El Paso, Texas. So I'm not sure it's a well, obviously it's a tune-up fight for Alexander in a way. I mean, he did fight in November of last year, so from that point he was coming off a 2-year layoff after his loss to Aaron Martinez. So I mean he's trying to get another win under his notch against Victor Ortiz. I do expect him to get past that, get past Ortiz. Now, if he does win that fight, given that he is rated number seven by the IBF, I have a feeling, and I'll be honest with you, I have a feeling that Devin Alexander will be in next in line after Spence goes get past Ocampo. So if he does beat Victor Ortiz and Spence gets past Ocampo, how do you guys see Errol Spence Jr. versus Devin Alexander fight? Now, if you ask me, I expect Spence to deal with Alexander probably just as it won't be just as easy as he did with Lamont Peterson, because Spence is more of a I'm not Spence, I'm sorry. Alexander is a very he is somewhat of an awkward fighter. He does fight in different angles and he's a very slippery guy. So, but the thing is that Devin Alexander, does he have enough power to get Errol Spence respect? I really doubt that. So this is a potential fight that could happen. To be honest with you. So yeah, Earl Spence versus Devin Alexander down the road. I think I could see that fight happening if Devin Alexander gets past Victor Ortiz and if Spence gets past Ocampo, Carlos Ocampo. So yeah, that right there is very interesting. Yeah, what's up, Boxing Talk? Devin needs more fights before he fights any top 147-pound fighter. I agree. I really think he does. But he is rated pretty high by the IBF. He's rated number seven, and if he does beat Ortiz, he'll definitely move up higher in the rankings. And if Ocampo, if Spence gets past Ocampo, which is more likely the scenario, then we could see that fight between Spence versus Alexander. Very interesting, but again, I just don't think. I mean, even if Devin does get another win before the Spence fight comes about, if he gets another fight, I just don't see him beating Errol Spence. I mean, he'll definitely boost his confidence going into that fight if it once it does get signed down the road. But I just don't. I don't see Devin winning that fight. To be honest with you, I really don't. Rosclaw says no Europeans at 147. Rosclaw got jokes. Actually, there's a couple. In the IBF, they have a few. They have Lasso Tooth, who's rated 15th from Hungary. You got Zokan Todorov from Kazakhstan, Gennady Golovkin's country. And then you got Kortutuyo Borov from Uzbekistan. and of course you got Konstantin Pomirov for Russia. So obviously that's the Eastern Bloc of Europe, your Eastern European countries. So those guys are rated at 147, but by at the IBF though, they're not rated in the top 10. Obviously. So yeah, yeah, I just think that yeah, that's the scenario I do see. What's good, Win King 76? Main boxing biker, what's going on, man? What's up? Oh, you from the BK, bro? That's what's happening, man. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. I got family that lives in the BK. Real talk. I got family members that live over there. My cousin lives over in the BK area up in Brooklyn, man. So that's cool. That's cool. That's what's up. Boxer Talk says there he should fight 3 more fights and let the dust settle. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But of course, if the IBF does order the fight down the road, Spence does have, I mean, not Spence. Uh, Devin does have a choice. Either he accepts the fight or he just passes up his mandatory opportunity and just take another tune-up fight before he's ready to take that opportunity. So I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying, but again, that would be to me, and I think that would be the likelihood of that happening. So yeah. Another news, not too much news going on so far, guys, because it's very light as of this week. But it is something worth note is that Kermit Cintron has came out and he's called out Amir Khan. Oh man, Kermit Cintron. Well, let's see. Kermit Cintron did fight last year. When people don't believe it or not, he did. He fought for the Pennsylvania. Because he's from. I think he's from Philly, but he fought for a regional light middleweight title. It was against Tyrone. Let me see who was his last opponent. It was Tyrone. He fought last year, but he got stopped. Cintron. And before he got stopped, he was coming. He was on. He entered that fight with a 6 fight win streak. So he was on a winning streak, but against regional opposition in Philly. Um, Let me see. Well, he's Puerto Rican, but I think he's based in Philly. It was Tyrone Brunson, yeah. So he has suffered a TKO loss last year in June against Tyrone Brunson, and Brunson was a guy who once held the record for most consecutive first round knockouts over a 6 year stretch. And he at that time he broke Edwin Valero's record, and then someone else succeeded Brunson. I forgot the guy's name. I think his name is Ali Yamani, whatever his name is. But um, Citron has called out Khan, and this is what he had to say about Khan. He said, "Look, if Amir Khan's coming back, that's a fight I want." So the two-time welterweight champion Kermit Cintron has been added to a deep card that he takes on George Sosa in a 10-round bout. So he does have a fight coming up in February. Okay, at the Sands Bethlehem. I'm sorry, the Sands Bethlehem Event Center. Now already announced were 2 other 8 rounders in the co-main event against nobody's. I'm not going to ask who they are. Cintron of Reading, Pennsylvania, has a record of 39-6 with 30 KOs. The 30-year-old Cintron, is an 18-year pro. He was stopped by Antonio Margarito for his bid for the WBO welterweight title. He scored 2 wins over David Estrada and Mark Suarez, and to capture the IBF welterweight title in 2006. He's made 2 defenses of that. Blah blah blah. But anyways, let's see. See, this is a fight to come back to get back to where I need to be. Now, after the Brunson fight, it was it was back to the drawing board. Now, this fight will get on, will start to get me back into to top of one, to get me back to the top one more time. Now, in Sosa, I was a broadcaster for his last fight. In a brief fight, I didn't see anything special from Sosa. I've been working hard and getting really prepared, and I'll be ready for the fight. When asked about Amir Khan, he said, "Look, I see that Amir Khan's coming back. That's the fight I want." All right. So Citron's trying to get past his next regional bout against what's the guy's name again? George Sosa. So if he does win that fight, I mean, well, here's my concern about that, because first of all, he's calling out Amir Khan, right? Amir Khan is a welterweight. Citron doesn't fight at welterweight anymore. He's been fighting at 154. He's been campaigning on 154 for several years now. So if he does somehow get a con fight, and I just don't see it happening, if he does, then how is he going to make 147? I mean, he literally is going to have to kill himself to make that weight. Unless it's going to be a catch weight, maybe at 152, maybe 151, something that Khan will meet him down the middle. I just don't see Khan giving any leverage to Comer Cintron when it comes to negotiation process. Uh, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, Cintron, like I said, he's been out of he hasn't been fought in the mainstream spotlight in years. He's been fighting regionally, relatively for at that point. He's just coming off a TKO loss over a guy who's also over the hill and shot by the name of Tyrone Brunson. Now he's taking on George Sosa. And what's going on, Kiwi? Kiwi boxes in the house. Um, Boxing Talk says that Earl Spence will fight other belt holders. Yeah, I mean, I hopefully, but it ain't gonna happen anytime soon. So Earl definitely is gonna have to stay busy. Now, going back to the Carlos Ocampo fight, which the IBF just ordered, the good sign about that is that Earl's gonna remain active. He's gonna stay busy. He's got to get through his IBF opposition, and then once he cleans out those guys, um, and then sooner or later those top guys will be ranked by the IBF. Then he's gonna have to, they got nowhere to run. So as far as the other champions, they don't get ranked by those other sanctioned bodies. So they don't really have to they don't really have to be obligated to do anything unless they're facing public pressure to fight Earl Spence. Now, the one thing I would say Earl Spence would do is that if he's really serious about trying to get Keith Thurman, what he should do is get Al Heyman and his management team to talk to the WBC. What's up, Charlie? I'll send you a link in a second, bro. Uh, he should get the WBC. Go talk to Mauricio Suleiman. Get the championship committee on the phone. They have a meeting. They discuss on their proposal. What Earl Spence should do is get ranked by the IBF. I mean, by the WBC. Because here's the thing. Yes, he's a champion from the other sanctioned body, but the WBCs has ranked other champions from the sanctioned bodies and made them mandatory challengers before. They've done that with Golovkin. They've done that with Kovalev. So if they could do it, make those exceptions for those two guys, then Errol Spence can definitely get that exception made for him to be ranked by the WBC. That way, Thurman will have nowhere to go. He has that WBC title, other than the fact that if he doesn't fight Errol Spence, if Errol Spence becomes a mandatory challenger by the WBC at that point, they keep the Erman. He'll have his bluff be called right there. If he drops the title, then we all know where he stands at that point. So I think that's what Errol Spence should do. Now, I'm not saying the fight should happen. I'm not rushing for the fight to happen. Some would argue that's what I'm trying to do. No, 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 no. What I'm saying is if Errol's really serious about it, and I think he is, if he really serious about it, I think he should take that step further. Talk to the WBC, talk to the championship committee along with Mauricio Suleiman, get ranked by the WBC, fight some WBC contenders like Sean Porter, like Danny Garcia. If you fight those guys, you position yourself to be the mandatory challenger, to Keith Thurman's WBC title. So that's what I think he should do. The Odd Fellow, what's going on, man? Realistic Boxer says he might as well get the Mando out the way. Well, yeah, he is. He is. He will. Earl Spence will definitely get a comp out of the way. He needs to take care of that. I mean, particularly with the IBF, because IBF is serious with their mandatories. You can't play around with those. So once they do order fights, you gotta, you have to really, you have to fulfill that mandatory obligations. But then again, the IBF can make some exceptions. They do have some managerial, they do have some oversight of discretion they can do. So it has happened before. However, they don't make these exceptions quite often, like the WBC, the WBL, and the WBA. They're really, really, really strict when it comes to the mandatories, and they rarely gives out exemptions. I mean, I know recently, a year ago, they did give Julius Odongo an exemption to pursue another unification bout against Terrence Crawford. So, and they gave Anthony Joshua an exemption too on some certain occasions. Yeah, it's a stay busy fight. Yeah, what's up, K Black? Yeah, it's definitely a stay busy fight for Spence. Definitely agree with you on that. K Black says, yeah, damn, Cintron's still around. Yeah, he is, man. He still is around. Black Lad Caesar, what's going on, man? Cintron had good power in his prime. Yeah, he did. He did have good punching power. But when he moved up to light middleweight, it just kind of the power didn't really carry that well when he moved up to 154. So yeah. Black Last Season says, does anyone know why the IBF have no number one, number twos? I mean, those spots are empty. Sean Porter, a few others are not even ranked in the IBF. Well, I think what happened was, and I could be wrong here, Black Last Season, that's a good question. I think Sean Porter was ranked number one by the IBF. I believe he was. But what happened was whatever disagreement that had happened between the sanctioned body and Porter elected to vacate his position as IBF mandatory and decided to go the WBC route. So he vacated his number one spot. And then the next guy who's up in who's next in the list was Konstantin Ponomrov. I keep butchering his last name. Ponomrov was ordered to fight Earl Spence, and Ponomrov didn't want that fight. He ducked it. So you had the top two welterweights at the IBF who were put in the positions, the number one, number two positions to take a fight with Earl Spence. But I don't think the IBF had ordered the Earl Spence and Sean Porter fight to go down. But they gave Porter the number one status from what I believe. And what happened was they vacated. Porter vacated his position. Promenov vacated his position. So now the next guy on the list is Carlos Ocampo. And followed behind him is like, let me look at the IBF rankings again. Fall behind Ocampo is Promanov, Konstantin Promanov, who vacated his number two position. I don't know why he's still ranked number four. I just don't understand that. Then Lamont Peterson is ranked number five. False Dan Porter has been ranked by the IBF since 2016. Well, look, I understand that, RFL, but from what I've heard, though, don't quote me on this. But what I've heard, Porter was going to get that ranking by that mandatory rank, the number one ranking by the IBF, but he elected not to do it. So he vacated voluntarily. He voluntarily bypassed that decision. So technically, he was going to get that ranking. I think they were going to preliminary give him the ranking, then he rescinded his decision to not be ranked. So that's what's happening. So yes, he probably wasn't officially ranked until he accepted it, but they were going to give it to him, but he decided not to opt out, not to be ranked by the IBF. So yeah. Basically, again, like let me go back to the IBF rankings. Lamont Peterson ranked number 5. He already beat Lamont Peterson last Saturday. Bradley Skeet is ranked number 6. And then after that is Devin Alexander. Now I remember, and then as I just mentioned earlier, Devin Alexander is scheduled to fight. What's his name? What's the guy's name? Victor Ortiz. He's scheduled to fight Victor Ortiz in February, so next month. And if Devin Alexander does win that fight, if he does win that fight, he will more likely be in position to be the next mandatory. To be honest with you, I think he will to be the next mandatory in the IBF to fight Errol Spence if Errol Spence gets past Carlos Ocampo. So that right there is a very interesting bout. Then again, I don't see Devin Alexander winning that fight. I'll be honest with you. I really don't see him winning that fight. What's going on, Rock? Rock 89 is in the building. The odd fella. So yeah, technically he ducked the eventual Spence meeting. Yeah, exactly. He was going to get that IBF ranking. They were going to give him the number one ranking, but he opted not to take it. So yeah. So he kind of vacated that position. Kiwi, when the IBF rankings due to be updated? I think they update it at the end of every I think the 30th of every month, I believe, almost towards the end of the month. So the next rankings will take effect at the end of this month. So you'll see Lamont Peterson move all the way down in the rankings. So we'll see how that happens. See where that goes. So hey, Ross Claus says that racists claim that Spence is on the juice. Well, yeah, I mean some of them who don't like black fighters, technically, yeah. But look, here's the thing. Errol Spence was recently he did a lot of testing for the Kell Brook fight, but did he do it for the Peterson fight? That I don't know. But I will say is this though, you can easily accuse someone of using PEDs based off their performances. I get that, but if you don't have concrete evidence, but you're rather just spreading innuendo and hearsay, then that's not good. Until they fail a drug test, then we can go ahead and condemn them. At this time, They have Errol Spence has not failed a drug test. He's passed every single test so far. Let's leave it at that. Okay. So Ross Class says that Alexander versus Spence will be boring. Alexander will run in 12 rounds. I mean, I think he would. Devin does like to move on the back foot a lot. He does. He has a very good jab. I agree with Black Latin Caesar. But, he is a very slick fighter. So that probably be a very it probably Spence would probably have a tough time trying to time him a little bit. But what do you do against movers and movers and boxers? You target the body, and that's what Spence was good at doing. Um, what you're going to have to do is you target the body, so that way you can keep them stationary. Because the longer you target the body, then you make their feet and you make their legs numb, so that way they can barely move and they have no choice but to stand there and trade with you. And that's what Spence is good at doing. He's good at placing shots together. He's very good at hiding his left hooks to the body, to the right side of the body. So um, that's something he's going to have to do against Devin Alexander. Instead of headhunting against him, he's going to have to target that body against a mover like him. And once that fight, hypothetically, once that fight gets made down the road. Um, and Kuma's Deception says here, I think Porter can smother a lot of Spence work, but I just don't think he can KO Porter. But I still think Spence is the favorite. Yeah, I mean, it'll be a very tough fight because Porter has a very rugged and nasty style of fighting. Okay, and that's something that Errol Spence is going to have to adapt to. So I don't think he'll be able to use his normal tactics against Sean Porter. I think this is going to be one of these you know I would say filthy fights, one of these most rugged fights where Earl Spence is going to have to gut it out, kind of like a Marvin Hagler type of situation, where he's going to have to gut it out against Sean Porter and not use his normal tactics. He's going to have to resort to other strategies to get Sean Porter out of there. You're going to have to pressure him. You don't want to give him a chance to pressure you. What you don't want to do is fight off the back foot against Sean Porter. You're going to have to smother him. You're going to have to fight him in close quarters. Spence is very good at doing fighting guys in close quarters. So yeah, um, Ross Class said agree. Dan, do you think have you discussed Earl Spence in depth? If you haven't, bro, let me get in. I have a bit, but if you want to chime in, man, I'll definitely let you in. Just give me a second, man. Um, Dan, what's your opinion on the premature boycott for Keith Thurman? Yeah, let me talk about that one for a second. Let me talk about that one. Hey, look. I I've been on record to say this, man. I don't like Keith Thurman's approach on this fight. All right. It's rightfully you should call him a hypocrite because we all remember, we all remember that he was the one when he was up and coming, he was a prospect, and then when he finally got out of the prospect stage and becoming a top welterweight, he was calling every single top welterweight out. And to his fairness, no but top welterweight really wanted to fight the guy. They thought he was extremely dangerous. And we all know Floyd ducked out of the mandatory against him. We all know that Marcos Maidana didn't want to fight him. Paulie Malignaggi didn't want to fight him. So a lot of guys, top welterweights, didn't want to fight him at that time, right? So what happened was now that Keith Thurman's a champion, he's in a position to get whatever fight he wants now. You got another champion named Earl Spence who's been calling you out. Now you're trying to be very passive about it. You're being very, very evasive about the guy. This is the same shit that happened to Keith Mayweather. Of course, the difference is Floyd Mayweather was more established. He had a resume. I get that. But my thing is that I didn't like that when Floyd was doing it, and I certainly don't like it when Keith Thurman is doing it. And I like Keith, but I got to call for what it is. He's being a hypocrite. Okay, you criticize Floyd and other fighters doing that to you, but why is it now when you're doing it to another fighter, it's all good, it's okay. You shouldn't be criticized for that. That's my problem with Keith. Okay, and he deserved to get flack for this. Does he deserve to be boycotted? Nah, I don't think he deserved to be boycotted. I just think he does deserve to be questioned about it. He needs to be called out for it. It's like, bruh, people were with him when Floyd was doing it to him, or other fighters were doing that to him. But when he's doing that to Earl Spence, nah, you can't have it both ways, man. You can't have it both ways. The odd fella says that boycott Thurman is a slap in the face to Heyman. I mean, it can be. Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from on that. I mean, Keith Thurman is a Al Heyman fighter. He's a dedicated Al Heyman fighter, by the way. Um, so yeah, if you're disrespecting Thurman that way, you're disrespecting Heyman to some degree. I do get your your um your assessment on that, odd fella. But yeah, I mean, you could say that, but I don't think it really reflects too much on Heyman, unless Heyman's pulling the strings here, saying, "Look, that fight will happen unless it's on my terms." Both fighters can say what the hell they want, but the fact is, I call the shots. I'm the one who's the matchmaker. I decide what fights go down. Unless that's what Heyman's doing, but we don't know because Heyman doesn't speak to anyone. The only people that speak to Heyman is either Thurman or Spence or their management team. That's the only people that speaks to him. So yeah. Hey, what's up, Blood? Blood's in the chat. Blood says, "Be easy, Dan." I am easy, man, but I'm seeking the truth. Um, yeah, Black Lives Season is very, very premature for Keith to be boycotted. I mean, I do, I agree. I don't think he should be boycotted. I just don't. I just think he should be called out on it, but he should be boycotted. I think it's a bit too far. I'm just being honest. If those who want to boycott him, okay, that's you guys' prerogative. But that's just my thoughts on it. I just don't think you guys should boycott the fighter because he's acting this way at this point. I mean, look, if he's blatantly doing this to other fighters besides Earl Spence, then I can see where you're coming from. But yeah, I mean, look, it's just too mature right now. I mean, they're both young, they're both in their prime. At this point, we have to wait and see what happens. I mean, for those who just joined the comment section, I did say this. If Earl Spence is really, really serious about the Keith Thurman fight, and I think he is, I think what he should do is get his management team together, contact the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman in the championship committee. They have a meeting, they have a discussion, and they should propose that I by the WBC. Why? Because the WBCs has made Kovalev when he was a champion for the WBA and the IBF. They made exception for Gennady Golovkin when he was a WBA champion. So if you made exceptions for those guys to be ranked by the WBC, then Earl Spence, that same exception too. Give me the ranking. I will fight all your top guys, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, whoever's ranked the WBC. I will fight those guys so that way I could position myself to be the mandatory challenger. So, I mean, Sergey Kovalev and Gennady Golovkin did that when they were champions from the other sanctioned bodies. So Earl Spence could do the same thing. If he does that and he beats those guys, then Thurman has nowhere to go but to vacate his title. You really trapped him because at this point, Earl Spence cannot trap Thurman. For him to trap Thurman, he will have to go that route, to be honest with you. So that's what I'm just saying. That's what he could do. Let me see here. Ross Claus says that Thurman looked like he fought his fight with Mac. Let me see. Let me see. Uh, Thurman holding two belts needs to fight two mandatories a year. So this cherry picking and fighting once a year ain't good enough. And I hate that shit. I agree. Kiwi Box, I definitely agree with that. And this is the same thing I said about Earl Spence. It's like, look, man, you can't be fighting once a year. I mean, like I said, I really believe that some disagree with me on this one. I really thought that maybe he should have worked out a way to get that Cotto fight, but it is what it is. It didn't happen. You move on, right? But the good news is that since he is a champion, he is going to be more active now. He just got up through a fight with Lamont Peterson. He didn't really take damage in that fight. So his next fight coming up is against his mandatory challenger, Spence-Ocampo. So the upside is he is staying active. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Thurman needs to start being active. But if he continues to get injured the way he is, then you kind of lose support. I understand sometimes things happen and you get out of your control, but you got to stay healthy, man. You have to stay healthy as a fighter. Otherwise, if you have trouble staying healthy, you might as well retire. Retire. Call it quits. Don't put too much stress on your body. Ross Class said the blood. Hey, Thurman looked like he want to fight makeup artists for exclusive. Let me see. Akuma's Deception says there, I don't understand how people miss the point that Heyman is building this fight up. I mean, they both have the same advisor under the same banner. Making this fight should be easy. That is true. It should. But again, it's always up to the management of the fighter who represents the fighter. Yes, Heyman is an advisor. He is an advisor. He does manage the fighters to some degree. But however, he does not have 100% control of the fighters. See, when fighters sign with Al Heyman, they already have a manager in place to make that deal happen. Okay, so whoever makes the deal with Heyman to sign a deal with Heyman, they make the decision on whether they want to take the fight or not, based off the terms that's presented to them. So at the end of the day, what I'm getting at is whoever Keith Thurman's manager is, who is their actual their lead manager, I should say, that lead manager of whoever Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, They're the one decides, okay, it's good to go. We agree to the terms. Let's make the fight happen. So that's the way it is. Yeah, I agree with you. It should happen. It should be easy. But again, it depends on the lead advisor, the lead manager. So that's the way it is. Akuma's deception, no offense, but offense. But the Spence fanboys are becoming the new pack tards of this boycott bullshit. Wow. Well, I mean, let's put it this way. I will say this. Let's be fair here. All right, is the boycott thing a little bit, taking it too far? I agree, but let's be honest here. You can't really compare that to to the Pacquiao fanboys because the Pacquiao fanboys, when I was a commenter, they were a lot worse. Okay, if you have 1 ounce of constructive criticism of Manny Pacquiao at that time, they would either block you. Okay, that's for one. That's fine. You want to block somebody just because they have an objective opinion, so be it. But what they would do is that if you made a video about Manny Pacquiao in a constructive way, criticizing him, then you would get your video flagged. That's what they would do. And if you're a commenter who attacked Manny Pacquiao in a constructive way, they would report you for that. That's what they used to do. They used to get a lot of channels shut down because they didn't like what uploaders used to say about Manny Pacquiao in a constructive way. That's how crazy they were. Okay, if you said that Manny Pacquiao is not the greatest fighter of the era or the greatest fighter of all time, they will get they will get highly agitated. Sometimes they'll be very violent towards you in a verbal way. That's what they did. Perfect evidence of that was exhibited not too long ago with the Jeff Horn fight. When they felt that Jeff Horn got a gift decision over Manny Pacquiao, which is not really the case, it was a close fight. The Pacquiao fanboys attacked Jeff Horn. They attacked him on his social media feed. They attacked his family. They attacked his wife. So that's how bad it is. In all fairness to the Spence fans, the Spence fanboys, as you want to call them, I haven't seen no evidence of them doing those things like that, to be honest with you. Hey, what's going on, Fannin? Fannin Boxing, International Boxers in the house, man. What's going on, brother? So yeah, Kuba's a section. I see where you're coming from, but I don't like that. I totally disagree with that comparison. The Spence fanboys are nowhere near as bad as the Pacquiao fanboys. I'm just being honest. They're nowhere near as bad. Um, Yeah, Blood. I agree with Blood on this one. Yeah, pack tard comparison is inaccurate. I think, yeah, it is. It is. So Akuma's decision say, look, if the Spence fanboys continue this BS, it's only going to get cause a Spence backlash like he did for Golovkin, Lomachenko, and etc. Well, that's a good point. That's a very good point. I have to, I have to agree with that. So yeah, with the boycott thing, I think it is a bit too far. I agree with that. So, but as far as comparing, again, the only thing I would disagree with you on is the fact that Spence fanboys are just like Pacquiao fanboys. Nah, totally disagree with that. That's not a fair comparison. Uh, Fannin says, want to see a fight that does not make you a fanboy. Making excuses for fighters not fighting is more fanboyish. Very good point. I cannot agree with you more, Fannin. That's a very good point. Very good point. Rock89 says, why do people feel it takes years and years to build a fight? You know what, Rock? I comment on this too. Look, here's a guy who's I like you guys know me. I study history, right? I love to use history as a precursor to why I want to to express my points. Many fights don't get to happen right away as fans demand it, right? I understand that, right? But now, but here's the thing though. I do understand that, right? But at some point in some time as a fan, you get tired of that because first of all, the guys are in their primes. They're in great shape. They haven't lost a step. Why not put them against each other while they're in their prime? Because what people fear the most, like a fan myself, is that if you drag these fighters out for longevity, where they keep taking the interim fights, before they eventually meet, one of those fighters are going to slow down. They're going to slow down. They're going to lose a step. They're going to lose their skills are going to diminish to a degree that the fight won't be as competitive as we thought it would be. Right. So yeah, I totally agree with Rock on this one. Just because I just don't understand. It just makes no sense why it takes years and years to build. It doesn't have to happen. Does it happen? Absolutely. Is there justification for it? Well, it has to be a damn good reason. I mean, unless the fighters want to build their profile a bit more, I get that. But if they are already a hot commodity, they're all drawing, they're all selling tickets already. They're making $1 million paydays. What more do they need to build? as a fighter for a big fight to happen. What more needs to be built? You know. So yeah, yeah, that's a very good question, Rock. Very good question. It's just that sometimes fights don't need to be dragged out as long as they should. They don't have to happen. Has it happened? Absolutely. But it does not have to happen all the time. There is no rule that says that fights need to build over time to gain consumer interest. It doesn't need that. It doesn't have to happen that way all the time. There's no rule that says that. So yeah, nobody here is questioning Spence ambitions, only Thurman's. Maybe Spence should fight his Mando, then fight the Crawford Horn winner. Thurman could can stay fighting for a chump change until he grows some nuts. Hey, Kiwi, man. Kiwi's on point. Black Lives Caesar is like, well, hey, if Thurman's a cherry picker, then what the fuck was Floyd? Hey, good point. Good point. Let me see. Ralph Unreal says Floyd never cherry picked. Well, actually, no disrespect, man. Ralph Unreal, he did. Floyd did cherry pick his fights. After he beat Oscar De La Hoya, he was very selective. Well, before the Oscar De La Hoya fight, he was cherry picking to some degree. But after that, he became a cash cow. He became a notorious cherry picker, which he never denied. He said this on many occasions on interviews that he doesn't care about legacy. All he cares about is about his money. It's about getting his money. Skills pays bills. That's all he cared about, and not taking any damages in his career. So his objective was is to take the less riskier fights, the less risk fights as much as possible, and make the most money out of it. That was always his goal, and he succeeded doing that. So yeah, let me see. Thurman is not only making a good case for himself, he's advising his food. He's whoever is advising his food needs to be fired. He's acting all scared. At least talk some shit. Yeah, I agree. I agree, Akuma Deception. I definitely agree here. Blood says that the Pac fans shut me down. Yeah, I mean, and that's what happened to you, Blood. They really shut you down years back. I didn't know that, bro. Actually, you know what? No, actually, you know what? I did find out about that, man. Those times your channel was going off the air. I mean, going off the YouTube for certain occasions. I didn't know they had. I didn't know Pacquiao fans were responsible for that. I really didn't know. But it is what it is. But I'm glad to see you here, though, brother. That's a good thing. Uh, Black Latin Caesar says here the big difference is that between Spitz fan and a Spitz tar is that they act like this dude is Jesus. But hey, do me a favor, Black Latin Caesar. I'm gonna take the Charlie Brown route, man. I try not to use the nigga word too much, man. I don't really don't want that word to be used often on my channel. I really appreciate that if you could make that a consideration for me, man. I really do. Uh, yeah, many fighters figures in the pie nowadays. Managers, promoters, advisors make it harder for fights to get made. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's just my initial point. It's sometimes it's not always up to the fighters. It's up to the managers or the advisors to make the final decisions because they're the ones who overlook the terms because something that fighters may not be aware of. So they go over it, they review it. If they think it's okay, then they give it a thumbs up. If they don't want it, they say, nah, we're not gonna take it because we don't like this term. So that's what happens. Kuba's Deception says that I just think that Thurman is not feeling confident in his skills following his series of his injuries. He's easy pickings for Spence at this point. I wouldn't say he's easy pickings. I just would say is that I think what Keith is trying to do at this point is that he knows Spence is a dangerous commodity right now. So what he's trying to do is that he's waiting for someone to exploit whatever weaknesses that Errol Spence has at this point. But I will tell you one thing: he does have one weakness is that whenever Errol fights in close quarters, he leaves himself extremely wide open. And before the Lamont Peterson fight, he was getting clipped against lower tier opposition. So Keith Urban can hit hella hard. He can hit hard. He can crack. So watching that Lamont Peterson fight, Peterson was hitting Smith with some vicious left hooks and some vicious right hooks. So if Keith Urban can hit Earl Spence in close quarters with those short rights and left hooks, I think Spence will be in serious trouble. So weakness that Keith Urban can take advantage of. But what he's trying to do is that he's looking for more weaknesses. So I think what he's trying to do is that he's waiting for Spence to slow down a bit. Slow down, then it'd be a perfect time to take the fight against him. So I think that's what he's waiting for. He's waiting for him to slow down. Uh, Pactars are by far the worst, Kiwi says. Ralph Unreal says that Keith was never that good. He had issues with old ass Julio Diaz. I mean, hey, who didn't have issues with old Julio Diaz? Sean Porter had issues with him. In fact, Sean Porter had so many issues with Julio Diaz in the first fight, it was ruled a draw. Many people felt that Julio Diaz won that fight. And he had a tough rematch against Julio Diaz as well. And Julio Diaz knocked down Amir Khan. He almost knocked him out, in England. So, and that was Amir Khan's first fight at welterweight. I think it was a catchweight fight, I believe. But yeah, Julio Diaz almost knocked out Amir Khan. So that version of Julio Diaz that Keith Thurman had a little trouble with, he gave all those other guys trouble. And at that point, Julio Diaz was never stopped or knocked out by anyone until that point. So yeah, all I gotta say is who never had trouble with Julio Diaz. I mean, a lot of fighters did at welterweight. Whoever fought Julio Diaz, a lot of guys did. So let me what else we got over here in the comment section? Let's see. Actually, you know what? Julio Diaz, I have to make a simple correction. Julio Diaz was stopped before the Thurman fight. So yeah. But what I'm saying is that Porter and Khan could definitely attest to what I'm saying here. Keith deserves to continue roasting, but to boycott him and not the former champion Sean Porter, who dropped himself out of the IBF rankings, is yeah, I agree with that. Thought Villa, I do agree with that. Sean Porter's ducking season right now. Yeah, the Pactar era was some of the sickest shit I've ever seen. Flagged any video that wasn't praising him. Yeah, exactly. That's what was going on. So yeah, try to compare Pactards to Spence fanboys, quote unquote. That's not a fair comparison. That's not a fair comparison. So yeah, I'm not saying that the Spence fanboys are equal to Pactards, but it can easily turn that into that way. Uh, I don't see that happening, to be honest with you, Akuma's deception. But hey, I have been proven wrong before. If they do that, I will call them out on that. No disrespect, and I know some of the guys who are Spence are who are good fans of Earl Spence, which is cool. But you don't want to resort to that route. That makes no sense because this is an open debate. Okay, you don't have to be subjected to a fighter because another guy says you have to like that fighter. Okay, if you don't like him, you don't like him. That's your prerogative. Okay, you're inclined to admire whatever fight that you admire, a fighter that you want to admire. You're inclined to that thought. You don't have to be forced to who you don't want to like. In the story. Uh, two big profiles make one big fight. Let it build is a BS excuse to get some money before taking a big risk. I agree. I agree with you, Kiwi. I agree with you on that. The odd fella says that look at the IBF rankings. No Danny Garcia, no Crawford, no Pacquiao, no Porter. Pacquiao definitely. I mean, we all know that's not going to happen. As far as Crawford's concerned, he is by the WBL, so he's got a WBL mandatory shot against Jeff Horn. So once he becomes a champion, then he does not have to be ranked by the IBF. So I don't see that happening. However, if Crawford does win that fight, which he is favored to do, if he does win that fight and becomes a champion, then there will be public pressure for him to try to get a unification bout with Earl Spence Jr. So yeah, that's yet to be seen. That's yet to be seen. As far as Danny Garcia is concerned, I don't know what's going on with him. I mean, Danny Garcia, after the Mauricio Herrera fight, his confidence has really sank to a very new low. You know what I mean? He hasn't partaken in some of the fights that we haven't we wanted to see him in. I mean, yes, granted he did get the Keith Thurman fight. He did partake in that fight. He fought a pretty good fight, but he lost that fight, no doubt about it. So yeah, but now he's taking on Brandon Rios, and that's for a WBC title eliminator, which is disgusting to me. I don't understand what did Brad Rios do to deserve to get a shot, get a shot at a title eliminator. I don't understand that. Danny Garcia, on the other hand, needs to fight his way up before he'd be considered to get a title eliminator shot, in my opinion. So, let me see. Ralph Unreal says, "Who did Porter ducked?" Um, well, technically, he hasn't ducked anybody. Well, you could say that he did duck an opportunity to maybe perhaps face Errol Spence Jr. because Porter was offered a ranking by the IBF, a top ranking, which he probably would have been the number one mandatory challenger. But he decided not to be ranked by that sanctioned body. And of course, Errol Spence is the champion, so uh, some will look at that as a duck. So the reason why you don't want to be ranked by the IBF because you know who the champion is. It's kind of like a catch-22 situation. Let's see. Porter and Danny Garcia don't want nothing parts of Spence. It's kind of like what Triple G was going through in the middleweight division. Yeah, it's the same thing, same situation. But in a situation like this, and I'm not going to give, I did kind of, I understand it was an unfortunate situation that Golovkin was getting ducked by all the middleweights, but I was a bit critical of Golovkin for not trying so hard to make these fights happen. Okay, I know if somebody offers fighters some amount of dollars, they don't want to take it because based off worth the risk, they should be taking fights like Golovkin, a dangerous fighter like him. So what you have to do in a situation like this to increase your profile, you're going to have to overpay fighters. That's what Mike Tyson did when he was a very feared guy at heavyweight. To get guys in the ring with him, he had to overpay opponents. So Errol Spence will have to do the same thing. If he want to get these other welterweights in the ring with him, he's going to have to overpay them. He's going to have to do it. Unfortunately, when you're a dangerous commodity like a dangerous fighter like yourself, and you have a tough time getting guys in the ring with you, that's what you're going to have to do. So Golovkin understands that now. His team understands that now, and they've been able to get some of these guys in the ring with them. So they understand that now, which I applaud them for. So Errol Spence is going to have to do the same thing. I know. So he's going to have to start spending some money. His team's going to have to get these guys. They're going to have to overpay guys and get them in the ring. That's what he's going to have to do. Um, what's up? 12249, 4529. Let me see. Porter's blatant duck is Spence. He's hiding behind the IBF excuse. Well, hey, it is what it is. Uh, Floyd is a cherry picker. Ross Scott. Yeah, we all know that, man. Let me see. I give older fighters more legitimacy, more wiggle room with cherry picking. I mean, yes, like I said, Floyd. If you're talking about Floyd, then yeah, Floyd had he did have a great resume. We can't really knock him for that. But then again, at the same time, we cannot critique it. And he did cherry pick during the later stages of his career. He did. And some people who are Floyd fans didn't want to admit that. And now later they do kind of admit that, but they want to say, well, he had a liberty to cherry pick. It's funny, they weren't saying that when he was a champion, but now when he's no longer fighting, they could say that, but they say, oh, but he had the right to do that. Okay, I understand that, but the fact is he is a cherry picker. He was, and he admit that he was. He don't care that you call him that because at least he preserved his health. He made a lot of money doing it, and he's retired. He's retiring happy that he is. So it is what it is. Uh I agree, Ross Clark. The N word should never be used, and I'm not gonna really be using that word anymore, to be honest with you. Yeah, try cold turkey, Black Lad Caesar. That's cool. Uh Black Lad Caesar that Spence's punch resistance is crazy. Yeah, man, he's got great punch resistance. He does. He has very good punch resistance. But again, I do caution him about his punch resistance because if you start taking shots to the head too much, your punch resistance do deplete. See that happen to Ray Mercer. We've seen that happen to fighters like George Savallo. We see that happen to Ricardo Mayorga when he met a big puncher by the name of Felix Trinidad. We saw what happened to Mayorga after that fight. So Ray Mercer, amongst others. So punch resistance, but he can't continue to take too many shots in the head the way he does. Not saying that Errol Spence is a punching bag. He's not a punching bag, but what I'm saying is that when he's fighting in close quarters, he tends to leave himself extremely wide open. He's got to stop doing that. So he's got to work on his defense in the inside, especially in the close quarters. Here, should we stop using the boy too? Because we use it. We used to be 3/5 of a man. Yeah, that's a good point, odd fella. That's a very good point. Very good point. Maybe we should stop using that term as well. Ross says the pride of Indio, Julio Diaz. Yeah, Indio, California. Yeah, he's from Indio along with his brother. I think his brother is Joe Diaz, I think, right? The trainer of Tim Bradley. So I think that's his brother. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think that's his brother. Uh Let's see. Black seasons that he doesn't roll with the punches; he just eats them. Well, no, no, Black Light seasons. I have to disagree with you on that one. He does roll with the punches sometimes. With you one thing, he does eat so many punches when he fights at close quarters, and he has to stop doing that. Really, because if he eats a big puncher like Thurman, who's a heavier-handed guy, well, that's gonna be a problem. That defense when he fights in close quarters, he's got to do that. Uh, let me see. Tommy Hearns had problems with Rodon, and that's boxing. Yeah, that's true. He did. Tommy Hearns, really had problems with guys who are very technical. Some parts of his career. So, but when he did, well, actually, not really technical fighters. He had problems with guys who keep him away from the, fighting in the center of the ring, amongst others. So, Barkley, who kept him away from the center of the ring, Iran Barkley really swarmed his ass in the second fight to give Hearns no chance to fight from the distance, no chance whatsoever. So he forced him to fight in close quarters, which Tommy Hearns can fight to some degree in close quarters, but he was not still a fighter in close quarters. He was a very good fighter from the distance, and he was very good at fighting you in the center of the ring. Let's see, yeah, Sonny was hurt in some of his prime years. It is true. Kiwi, all right, man. We'll catch up by the time. Dwayne Jones says that Crawford's too small. We all see what happened Saturday. May be the case, but Terrence Crawford is a very, very technical fighter. He's much more technical and he's much more skillful than Lamont Peterson. That's a totally different fighter right there we're talking about. So I would count Crawford, yeah, just because of his size disadvantage against Earl Spence. I would not count that out, to be honest with you. Uh, and plus, his high guard does take a lot of power out of the shots that land on him. It does. It does. It does. Uh, True indeed. Phil says the fight we should be building Spence versus Crawford. Thurman isn't that special. His power is overrated, and he's been squeaking out the decisions as of late. Yeah, I never said that Keith Thurman doesn't have ridiculous power. No, he doesn't. But the man can hit hard. He can hit hard. Yes, he did knock out Sean Porter. He did knock out Danny Garcia, but he did visibly hurt those guys in that fight. In those fights, he did. He visibly hurt those guys. So he does have enough power to crack those guys to get your respect. He does have enough power to do it. So yeah. Do you feel that Peterson quit or his quarter stopped the fight? Because your last video said he quit, and I don't agree with that. Well, his quarter quit. And at the same time, Lamont Peters says, "Look, it's up to y'all." So he left it up to his court to decide what he wanted to do. So in a sense, Lamont Peterson pretty much had said, "You know what? I gave it all that I have, but I could survive another round or two." So basically, that's what he was saying. Indirectly, he's like, "Look, I could survive another round or two, but I'm not going to beat this guy. So it's up to you guys to decide what you want me to do." So he left it up to his court to decide what he wanted to do, what they wanted to do. So at the same time, if your corner says that's it, no more, then it reflects on your fighter. So unfortunately, that's what it is. Rock. I mean, unfortunately, that is what it is. Dwayne Jones says that Earl Spence defense is suspect. That's why Thurman has a chance, but Thurman don't want that smoke. Yeah, I agree. I just think that Thurman is worried about is that punch resistance that Earl Spence has. That's the one thing he's probably worried about. So he's probably looking for some more weaknesses to be exploited in Earl Spence's upcoming bouts. And once he sees that, then he'll say, okay, now it's time to take him because I think he's slowed down now. So let's see. Thurman's punching power is overrated. No KOs in the last 5 fights. Yeah, like I said, it is. I'm not saying whoever overrated it. Okay, fine, they overrated his power, but he does have good power to get your respect. Like I said, he hurt Danny Garcia in his last fight. He did hurt Sean Porter in that fight in those last fights too. He does have enough power to get those guys respect. He does have enough power to hurt you. So yeah, uh, yeah, but you never seen Danny Garcia knocked down or Sean Porter, but he rocked them hard. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He rocked them hard, where they had to hold on for dear life against him because they were going to get knocked out if they didn't hold on to him. So they had enough punch resistance and recuperative powers to stay in the fight. That's the one thing you have to say about Sean Porter and Danny Garcia. They have very good recuperative powers. So yeah. Jared Duran says, "What's up, Dan? Keep killing them." Hey, what's going on, man? Uh, Terry Norris 2.2K. Hey, who you referring to? Terry Norris, blood. Who you referring to? Keith Thurman, Terry Norris, or what? I just want to know, man. Very true. But I see Porter down, Guerrero stop as well as Bundu. He did say he needs to work on his defense, which means he ain't complicit. Keith's punching power is not consistent because he doesn't sit on his every punch. He usually is on his toes, or as opposed to Spence, who sits on every shot. But the one thing I would say about Keith is that he telegraphs his shots way too often, and he's got to stop doing that as well. So he's got to stop telegraphing his punches. And I've always said about Keith is he does that quite often. Uh, yeah, I agree. That's why he'll smoke Crawford. I do not agree that Errol Spence will smoke Terrence Crawford. I don't think it. I think that's it. I think it's a relatively even 50-50 fight, but I would edge Crawford at this point slightly. But I would change my mind a bit until I see Errol Spence in there against other tougher opposition. So we'll see and how well he does against them. Remember the Hearns and Kitchen fight? Yeah, the Tommy Kitchen fight. Yeah, I remember that fight. The Thomas Kitchen. Oh, the James Kitchen. I'm sorry, not Thomas Kitchen. James Kitchen fight. I remember that. That's for the inaugural WBO super welterweight. Not welterweight, super middleweight title. I remember that fight. James Kitchen. I remember that fight. Uh, Charlie Brown says that Crawford Spence is the best at 147. Really, Charlie? I don't know about that, man. I mean, look, as much as Thurman's getting ridiculed at this point, but he is a unified champion, and he does have a better resume at this point than Errol Spence. Now, as far as Terrence Crawford's concerned, that's a bit debatable because Crawford's cleaned out both his divisions at 135. Well, not cleaned them out, but he cleaned out 140. He did do well. He did well at 135. So Crawford, I mean, well, we can't say he's the best at 147, but he's definitely, in my opinion, the best fighter in the world. So Crawford's got to get some fights at 147 before we can call him the best fight. Well, actually, you know what? I'm sorry, Charlie. I misread it. You said that Crawford versus Spence is the best fight at 147. It could be. I might agree with you on that one. It could be. It could be. We'll see. We'll see. Thurman is a diva. Yeah, he is. He is. No question about it. Uh, do you think that Errol Spence has a chance against Canelo, or is he reaching? Um. Well, I can tell you for one thing, Canelo does not take body shots very well. So Errol Spence may have a chance in that department. However, Canelo hits too damn hard. He hits a lot harder than the guys that Errol Spence has fought. So again, if Earl thinks he can beat Canelo, he's gonna have to tighten up that defense. I'll be honest. So with that said, I don't think he's reaching. But again, he's got to take Canelo Alvarez very seriously. I remember that call out. He did call out Canelo. He said, "Look, dear Golden Boy, if you guys want that fight, let's make it happen. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it." So let me see. Dwayne Jones says, "Who's ducking worse, Thurman or Joshua?" Um, let me say this: Anthony Joshua. No, I don't think. Look, I don't think he's ducking at this point. I just think he's. Well, obviously, it's in the hands of Eddie Hearn. Of course, Anthony Joshua has his input. They got the Joseph Parker fight, so you can't. They were able to make that fight happen because it was through a series of concessions. So I can't say that they're ducking Deontay Wilder. What I can say is that they could somehow make things a little difficult for that negotiations process between Wilder and with Wilder. However, Deontay well, in fairness, I think he could make things a little difficult too because of negotiations. And Anthony Joshua, at so far at this point, I hate to say it, I'm gonna be honest, he's actually, has a good track record of making good fights, making good fights happen at this point. He's very young in his career. He has a good track record of doing that. Wilder at this point doesn't have a good track record of doing that. Yes, he's got the Luis Ortiz fight, great, but obviously he's already in 40 pro fights, and this is like his second most significant fight on his resume so far. So Deontay's got to have to pick up the steam on it big time. So I don't think Anthony Joshua is ducking Deontay Wilder. No, I don't think so. But I know Thurman is at this point is doing that to Earl Spence at this point. But he's being strategic. He's not entirely ducking the guy. He's waiting for him to slow down. Uh, Let me see. Spence's favorite fighter is Terry Norris, so They fight similar with that dog, and I'm also engaging instead of using athletic ability. Yeah, um, that's true, but Terry Norris was a better boxer. Terry Norris could fight off the back foot, incredible hand speed, and he had powers in both of those hands too. But the one thing about Terry Norris is that, yeah, he had a very weak chin, probably one of the worst chins I've ever seen in history. But he made up for that with his skills and athleticism, and he got into the Hall of Fame because of that. So, uh, Kuba's section said that Canelo could hurt Spence, so it's dangerous fight from Spence. But Canelo's work rate gives Spence a good chance of winning a decision. So it'd be too early for calling for that fight at this point. That's a good assessment. I agree with you on that, Akuma's deception. I agree. P Money, what's happening, brother? What's happening? I ain't saying Spence has no pot. I mean, Thurman has no pot, but when you call yourself KOs for life or one time, you're overrated. I fell down. That's a cold one right there, man. That's a cold one. Black Latin Caesar says that Thurman has the best resume at 147, but it is king until he comes off those belts. Yeah, he is. He has the best resume at 147. That's a fact. He does. So it is the truth. Uh, Kuba's deception says that Porter was doing the stanky lace advertising that fight. Yeah, he was. Like I said, he was getting rocked by Thurman in that fight. He was. Uh, Spence has very good hand placement with those defenses. It puts good foot skills. He's just a little, he just has a little head movement, so that scares me a little bit. Yeah, I know, I agree. Because Earl, he has some bit of head movement, but like I said, he keeps himself wide open all the time, and sometimes he's been squared up. So yeah, like I said, when he further steps up his level of competition at welterweight, and mind you, talking about is Keith Thurman, obviously, Sean Porter, obviously. Those guys hit much harder than Lamont Peterson. So he's going to have to really, really be careful with his, with his defensive guard. He's going to have to be careful with that. Charlie Brown says, "Yep." Everybody talking about Spence could afford to get hit, but Thurman. How is it that everybody is talking about Spence but can afford to get hit, but Thurman? But I see Spence chin and body tougher than Thurman, but Soto Karasu wobbled Thurman with a legit punch. Yeah, Soto Karasu hit down. He could crack, man. I know the guy is not a great fighter. No, he's not. But the dude can bang. He hits so damn hard. Ask Andre Berto, because Soto Karasu can hit damn hard. Okay, and Andre Berto is not is one of those guys too that you cannot really knock out. Andre Berto has a damn good chin. Okay, yes, the only two guys that stopped him was Soto Karasu and Sean Porter. So what does that tell you? You know, so Soto Karasu can hit hard. So he's a legit puncher, but he's not a good fighter. Crawford is the most talented fighter I've ever seen. Yeah, he is. Like Lad Caesar. Kuba's deception. There's a rumor in Canada that Stevenson and Jack's fight will not happen. Stevenson will fight Alvarez instead. Jack got a much better offer. Oh, what the fuck? Really? Really? Oh my goodness. Well, that you may be telling the truth, MBT, because it's been 3.5 weeks now since the WBC has mandated. Not they haven't mandated it. They have sanctioned Badu Jack versus Adonis Stevenson, and no deal has yet to be made. So I wonder what the hell's going on here with Adonis Stevenson. I mean, is he gonna fight or what? I know Alvarez pulled out the eliminator against Alexander Vosdick, and I can see why he did it. So if he is actually getting the Stevenson fight, then hey, so be it. It is what it is. But yet, I'm not. Let's just wait and see what happens for that point. Adonis would rather fight Alvarez with a duck. I look. Here's the thing, man. I would say that because Alvarez is his mandatory, so he's got to fulfill that obligation. So I won't call that a duck. But I will say this though is that Stevenson should not have